Hey everybody, welcome back to Dungeon Maker here on the World of Madness server. So we are once again back at the dungeon, the Tomb of Tukar, and astute viewers will recognize that this used to be a lot of water. You would not believe how many stacks of sand it took me to fill this up. Actually, I can give you a pretty good measurement. So, let's see, I filled in from over there to over here, and this just got blown up by a creeper right before I started filming, so don't mind this. Whoop, going down, filled in this section here, so that looks a bit more pretty, and here is where it stops. That is how deep this gets. That's actually not even how deep it gets, because it gets a bit deeper, a bit further in. Oh, and I'm about to drown. There we go. Huh. So yes, I filled in all the way from over there to over here and along there, just so I could actually get to dealing with this tomb section without having to worry about hitting water. And you know what? I still failed. But as you saw in the little time lapse there at the start, there was me digging down and around, so that I've now got 2 out of 3, well, significant portions of 2 out of 3 corridors that I need to dig. And let's go have a look at them, shall we? That seems like the smart thing to do. So, as we know, there are ostensibly 3 corridors. You can only actually access 2 in the course of going through the tomb. So we have the goblins to the left. Well, the kobolds to the left, I should say. Goblins are a bit more mainstream than kobolds. And we have the actual old tomb section to the right. So, to go this way, you face a whole bunch of traps that are manned, meaning that there has to be a mob inside of them to actually have them function, so you can turn them off by killing whatever's there. Hence, our kobolds. Go this way, you instead find a bunch of automated traps that will reset and continue to attack you relentlessly. And down there would have been like the more ceremonial, like traditional kind of, you go straight from here, you see all the pretty stuff, and you get right to the actual burial chamber. But it has, as we can see, been filled with sand over the wages of time. That said, I did actually dig it out, because I can probably use the space, and it's going to be helpful to have this like connection anyways for certain traps and whatnot. So this does actually lead to somewhere, and we'll get to that in a moment. But it kind of connects to over here, so that I can actually talk about this. So you go down here, and I've tried to make these transition sections, these corridors, a decent length, so that you can't you can't like be from one place to another really quickly. You actually have to like have an intervening period of time, and these are of course also not all prettied up just yet. I've got more work to do on that. But I dug a fair ways down, and we got to here. So, you go along down here. You've just come in to the tomb section. It's dark. It's currently very bright because there's nothing on top of these hard slabs. But you come down here. It's dark. You're not allowed to place torches. You're not allowed to like break in blocks or anything. And you are presented with a turn-off. So you can go down here, continuing on, or you can go down here, turning to the right. Now, along here, you will eventually see this stairwell. Now, currently, it's fully usable. It won't be when you're actually down here and the place is completed because of more damage from the Wearages of Time. But what it will be doing is spewing out skeletons. Skeletons are about the only mob I intend to use, for the most part, inside of the tomb section. The zombies masquerading as kobolds will be in the kobold section, but skeletons make the most sense because I can remap them as various forms of mummy. Perhaps they were buried, perhaps they were workers who built part of the tomb and were sealed in to make sure its secret stayed here forever. But yeah, so you'll be getting skeletons pouring out of here. I have managed to locate a skeleton dungeon that's actually fairly close by. The only zombie dungeon I found is quite a bit of a distance away anyways, but we'll deal with that later. There are some like command blocks on the server that should allow me to custom craft either of those quite happily, but they are currently inactive following our shift to 1.9. So yeah, this will be blocked off, like you won't be able to go up it by virtue of it being covered in sand, but things from above will be easily able to come down and start opening fire. Now, that then presents you with a problem, because initially, the continuing point from here is unknown. You don't know where it is. So you have to like try and scramble to figure out how to get to the next area, or you have to flee and go back to the kobold section, but all the while you're being attacked by skeletons. And if you turn to the right, you can come down here. Again, these are specifically scaled, so they take a while, a meaningful degree of time to come down. And you come along here, and this is going to be apparent, but exactly how you get down here is going to be difficult, because this is going to be a hidden door. So you'll go through here, but first you'll have to figure out how to actually open the door. And this way also connects to that endpoint, but as you can see, and those of you who voted Tomb know who you are, so you have only yourselves to blame for this delay, I have to deal with more water this way. I've actually gone way beyond where I filled in here. I was expecting to go way beyond on this direction, not this one. So, yeah, that causes some issues. So, I'll dig this way, and you'll still be faced with skeletons, but I'll then go down here, turn to the right, and it'll meet up with that corridor down there, so it creates a big loop. And so the idea is you can pick one of 3 directions along here, to the right there, or to the right here, but 2 of them end up at the same place. And that will get you right over here. So what is beyond here, you may be wondering? What kind of things do I have here? Basically, this is a dead end. This is intended to be a trap. So you'll go down here, and it will either drop you into a pit, or it'll just be a dead end, or maybe I'll have another mob spawner there, maybe I'll even just shoot some arrows at you. But yeah, I have options, and otherwise, if you go down here, continue straight on, manage to get past the skeletons that are pouring out there, you'll find another secret door, and that is the door that gets you to the second sanctuary. The first sanctuary, of course, being up here. And I haven't done as much work figuring out how the opposing kobold side of things should go. Obviously, there are some degrees to which it should mirror the tomb section over there, but there's other sections where it should be almost completely renovated by the kobolds living there. So there's kind of some stuff I have to do for that. But to that end, let's hop into my test world, and we can have a little mosey around my little mock-up of how this place should look. So, back in a moment. Okay, so here we have my little 3-dimensional mock-up, and you can probably guess a little bit about which parts are which. So we've got our initial part at the actual desert temple section here, where you drop down, and then you come along, and these these indicate, what are these called? End rods. Okay, that's a bit simple. These end rods indicate traps. So this is the trapped corridor that you initially come through. Here we have our first sanctuary, and our second sanctuary is over here as well. This red section indicates the central pathways that you are not able to access for almost the entirety of the tomb. And we can see this cobblestone indicates an area that is blocked, that you cannot pass through to. So that one that's like a no-way direction. And here we have the skeletons spewing out. So I'll probably get over to the skeleton dungeon that I managed to find and hook up a water channel that will lead us to there. For now, I actually have to like go the hard way for getting all these mobs in, which is a bit of a pain, but oh well. So I'll probably be using pumpkins. I'll have a dropper that will just occasionally spit out a pumpkin, and then the skeletons can try and grab it. And if they grab it, they don't despawn, but either way, they come all the way up to here, where they can then be funneled out of this direction, because this one has also been blocked by damage. And let's see, so if you go to the right, you come along here, glass indicates our secret doors, or our doors whose opening is not necessarily obvious. And if you go this way, it leads to a trap. Again, I'm not 100% certain what kind of trap to have. Do let me know in the comments what kind of idea I should have there. And if you manage to find this one and open it, then instead you can go to the second sanctuary. Now, I'm not 100% certain if I should leave it that you are actually able to cross over from one side into another, if I need to include some form of one-way door so that you can't try and work backwards through one of these zones. That would probably be bad. But do let me know. Of course, I could just have them blocked up like this, so you can see into the other area, but you can't actually access it. Which could be good if you have multiple teams going through the dungeon at one point in time, so you just have, like, one team going through the tomb section, one team going through the kobold section, and every now and then they get to have a peek at each other past that first sanctuary, because that's where everyone has to split up. Obviously, a lot of this is going to be linear, straightforwards, but later on I think it is going to split. It is going to be, one goes vastly off into another direction. There is going to be a general downwards climb, I think. So just as an idea, let's say that you can go off to the sanctuary to be a bit more safe, but there's also some stairs down that gets you deeper and deeper into the tomb. And what could we have here? My first idea was that at some point the tomb section has to have some kind of maze. But the trouble with a maze is that they're generally quite compact. They're generally, like, if you knock through one wall, you'll find the next, like, you'll find the next corridor over, which is not good because it means that it's very compact and hard to put redstone wiring in. Redstone wiring is rarely small. So if I did happen to have, like, a maze structure down here, I'd have to be dealing with how do I figure out what to do with the rest of everything. How do I get all of this wiring inside of the maze? So it doesn't work too well. And let's see, just block that off as well. We don't need an explanation for specifically why these central ceremonial parts have been the only parts that have collapsed in. Maybe we'll find some other places that have done it as well over here. So for example, let's have the forward section here blocked off, and then we can get people moving over to here, or maybe they try and go this way. Maybe there's another direction here that they can take, and maybe that leads to a dead end or a trap. So yeah, let's put a trap marker there. So yeah, that gives us another point wherein our different players can diverge. And maybe this will be the actual point that you have to go through. Maybe this requires a secret door that you have to bypass as well. Bloop. Bloop. Okay. But let's make sure that's past a corner. In fact, we can make it look like a false dead end there. Okay. Because what we really want to do inside of a tomb is confuse whoever's in there. We want them to lose their bearings. If somebody's using a map, it might help them. If they have F3 up, it might help them. But by and large, we want it to be that inside of here, it is entirely possible that you will lose track of where you are. So we might even have a few a few parts that go false upwards or downwards, so you just end up with dead ends and such. So let me see, where could we have here? You can't go down there, obviously. Can't go up here either. What else could we have? Now, I had to do a lot of research for this, because I'm not accustomed to designing places that aren't utilitarian. When I design a tomb, it's a tomb. There's a main entryway, there's a reception area, there's, like, the section off to the side where all of the tributes are stored, there's the actual, like, main burial chamber where you can go around the tomb and all sorts, and it's very nice. And as an ideal, you bury the builders and designers inside of the tomb to die, so that nobody knows where this thing is. But you know, that's if you're being a bit Egyptian about it. In reality, unfortunately, there's a reason that only Tutankhamun's tomb has ever been found unrobbed, besides the thousands of years that the grave robbers had to work with. And that reason is they didn't have any of the Indiana Jones-style traps. They didn't have the rolling balls, they didn't have the filling rooms, they didn't have the crushing traps or the spikes or any of that. And also that would break down very quickly without proper maintenance, in which case you need an engineer to come by every now and then. And even if you did succeed in putting that down the family line, you could never trust the engineer. That doesn't make any sense. So, yeah, traps pretty much never happened. The way that the Egyptians actually, like, managed to keep any of their stuff remotely safe from plunderers was, here is a, like, a burial chamber. Whoops, it's not the actual burial chamber. The actual burial chamber is, like, sealed behind a wall at some random point along this corridor. And if they were particularly smart about it, they had multiples of those, but they didn't have death traps, unfortunately. Which means that there was very little for me to actually go on, so I had to go back to my roots. I had to go back to D&D and think about, okay, well, this is basically a D&D map anyways, so where do I put the D&D stuff? That is the question. So let's have ourselves a stairway up here, and that can just be a dead end. So that gets them a bit more confused. They're coming down, they're like having to turn around, all this stuff. And maybe that was actually, like, meant to connect to somewhere, or maybe it was just never finished, or maybe it was deliberately just a dead end. But, you know, those are your options. And, no, we won't connect it to there. We will just say they built this as a deliberate dead end. So, let's convey that with some andesite, because it looks more like a block has been placed in the way. Okay, so, the cobblestone is areas that have been, felled by falling sand. Actually, we can probably just indicate that with some sand. A fort occurs. There we go. Just give ourselves something that's a bit more representative of our environment. Obviously, we are already way out of the desert as is, but that's because I had to go where there was a desert temple. I wasn't going to build the entire desert temple, especially not soon after I'd spawned in. But yeah. So, this is what we're looking at currently. So I have to finish off this section up here, and then we can continue with the second sanctuary and work out what goes on down here. This is where it starts to get a bit more windy and a bit more dangerous and full of traps and such. The deeper you go into the tomb, the more dangerous it's going to get. Whether there'll be skeletons hiding in here somewhere, I don't know. But that's something we can bear in mind. When I actually have the capacity to build, like to create custom craft with the command blocks, skeleton spawners, and the like, I can hide them in the walls, because spawners will spawn mobs where they would not otherwise be able to spawn. So that's something to bear in mind. They will spawn them in mid-air, which makes them a lot more useful for my purposes. But with that in mind, I hope you've enjoyed this look. And, oh yeah, someone suggested a flooding trap. Flooding can be done, but it's not really resettable. And, it's also kind of obvious when it's about to happen. I mean, this could be an arrow trap. You could surmise this might be, like, a room that's about to be full of arrows. But, yeah, it's really hard to actually, like, do a resettable flooding trap. That's the main issue. So that was an idea, but alas, cannot be done reasonably. And, with that in mind, hope you've enjoyed. I have been the Dungeon Master, and I'll catch you all next time.